let's not play these childish word games. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about New York City mayoral candidate Mayoral Wiley not really being honest about her stance on defunding the police. Now, there's a lot to quote unquote unpack here, as the cool kids would say. But before we even go down that road, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you're going to see Mayoral Wiley on local news out there in New York City, and they're asking her about her stance on defunding the police. You're going to hear her response, and then you're going to see what she said in other interviews fairly recently. These are interviews from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and she's changed her mind, all this, that, and the third. You're talking about very recent interviews that give very direct statements which contradict what she said when she was asked by the news. After we get done watching that, I'll talk about what she said there. Then I'll give you the rest of my 2 cents, my deep, detailed analysis, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Staying with policing, you've proposed defunding the NYPD by $1 billion, but I want to show you some recent surveying we did of New Yorkers. It shows that 70% of people would like to see the budget increased or kept the same. Only 30% want to see it decreased. You can see it on our graphic right there. Make the argument to that 70% as to why you are right.
Well, first, I want to correct you just on one thing, Henry, which is I have never called for defunding the New York City Police Department.
I think people are rightly saying you have to cut the police budget.
I'm going to take $1 billion from the New York City Police Department, cut $1 billion from the NYPD budget, which is bloated.
So now, it sounds like you stand with defunding the police.
I stand very much with, we have a bloated police department.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, I think that was pretty clear. She obviously wants to defund the police. Now, what she'll say and what those that want to defend her will say is that she did not say the exact thing. I want to defund the New York City Police Department, the whole defund. I want to defund. But if you want to take $1 billion with a B, if you want to take $1 billion away from New York City Police Department's budget, then what are we talking about? That is defunding, okay? If you want to reroute, take away, the budget is bloated, all this, that, and the third, you want to defund the police. Like I said from the very beginning, let's not play these childish word games. Say what you mean and mean what you say. If you say you want to take $1 billion away, then stand on that. Don't try to be, using all these slimy, words. Say what you got to say and mean it. Now, to those that say what she said was not wrong or it was not, it would not be harmful, it'd be good, I ask you why. Why would anybody be in favor of defunding the police? Now, I'm on the internet, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, etc., and people are commenting, talking about, oh, well, she wants to divert money over here to this program and this agency, it'll do a better job of crime. People that say that, I think, fall into maybe one or two, maybe three categories, but probably one of two categories. The first, just ignorant, all the way ignorant, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They have no clue. When you're talking about crime on the street, high crime areas, you need to have police out there. There must be a police presence out there to deter it. And if it does happen, you need to have the police be able to respond quickly to go ahead and apprehend the suspects. You have to have that. And then when you deter and apprehend or whatever, you also have to have prosecution that's going to come in there and do their job. Because if you can have all the police out there all you want to, you can have all the deterrent all you want to, but if someone commits crime, they get locked up and then they go for a prosecution and they get slaps on the wrist. Somebody might shoot somebody, kill them or whatever. They get 5-10 years in the joint. That's not really going to do it. And these criminals are smart enough to understand that. I'm not saying these guys are rocket scientists, but how smart must you be to sell drugs and shoot people? Not that smart, but I digress. The whole point is that they start to see little patterns develop. They're like, okay, well, check it out. If they're not locking anybody up for some of these smaller crimes, I'll go ahead and commit those crimes. This is why you saw that brazen theft in broad daylight in San Francisco. Okay. They're talking about, oh, you was a kid, you trying to just get some bread. That man was 40 years old and was selling beauty products, probably to sell them on the street, right? There's plenty of quote unquote street vendors out there in San Francisco selling stolen items. Soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, all that good stuff right there on the street. It's weird because San Francisco, they got a lot of these items locked up with padlocks. And then they also have them out on the street that's available. They probably steal them from places that don't have the padlock on the thing because they won't go to jail. They locked that guy up that was in the Walgreens on his bicycle, or they quote unquote arrested him. But is there going to be any charges? Is there going to be any, serious time in jail or serious fine? Probably not. It'll probably get thrown out. So you got to have the police and prosecution. You have to have that. Defunding the police and giving them money where? To a quote unquote community program? What you mean, like Black Lives Matter? So they can build another house in Los Angeles or in Georgia so they can get another private plane? Where's money really going to go? None of these programs are going to work. You got guys out here that will kill you over an Instagram post. And I'm not exaggerating. They will kill you over a tweet, over a subtweet. It might not have even been for you, the person that is the shooter. Not saying you guys are the watching. I'm just saying from the perspective of the person that's out here committing crime. It might not even be for the person that's out there shooting. Talking about, oh, we got to retaliate. They're disrespecting me. It might have not even been for them, but yet they're going to go out there and do it. So you're trying to take money from the police to try and combat that. How are you going to fix that with money? You got to have the police that are going to be out here to protect citizens as much as possible. You got to have the police presence. You got to have a deterrent, and you got to have prosecution that's going to be heavy-handed when they need to be. When you do things like, I don't know, shoot kids, shoot into occupied dwelling. When you do things like that, beat up on women for no reason. When you do things like that, okay, you might need to get 25 with the L in the penitentiary, just maybe, rather than the crime getting thrown out, the police not really trying to solve it, a bunch of unsolved crimes going on because there's no police to be able to do it. You got to have the police, right? So Maya Wiley most certainly wants to defund the police. And people that think this way also probably have never experienced a high crime area. They don't know any better. People like AOC talking about, the police, they have these military tanks and things they shouldn't have. Well, people on the street actually want things like that because it'll help them more.
There's a big movement right now about defunding the police, getting rid of the police. Do you support that?
Get rid of the police? And need more police everywhere.
But the research does show that more police on the street means less crime.
When it comes to funds, it's not always just about the number of officers in the street. It's about these police precincts that have tanks, that have military weaponry, that people ask, why does a local police precinct have this in the first place?
Like, I don't know, like maybe they need to take it to the next level. Military type people might need to come and sit on these corners and come and get and be active in the community. It might have to be past the police.
And shout out to Benny for that clip right there. You can see that full thing in the box. That full clip has person after person after person after person saying how they need more police. They need better security because they got security that's out there, little paid guards or whatever in their car. But all they're really going to do is just sit in their car, be on their phone, not really doing much, kind of the same way Epstein and his guards were allegedly. But that's a different story, and I digress. The point is that if you go to these areas like where I come from, matter of fact, I know where they were. I think they were in Anacostia, Southeast, right there in that little apartment complex. I seen that apartment complex. Okay. I've done my video about Juneteenth, and I would say how me and my dad would go to DC to visit my granduncle and the rest of our family up there. Well, they lived in Southeast. So I've seen all these little areas before a million times over, going to it throughout my life. And I know how dangerous they could be. I know how dangerous it is up there. I come from that. I've experienced it. This is what I know. But a lot of people just don't know any better. So they roll with the, socially acceptable narrative of defunding the police because they're trying to get some vote points in their peer group. They're not really trying to actually solve any kind of problems. They're not actually trying to achieve any safety in the community. All they want to do is get vote points because they don't have to deal with it. They can just be in their area in Salt Lake City, Utah, somewhere like that, among their peer group, going to the bar for Oktoberfest, drinking, chilling. they're not really worried about what's happening in Southeast DC or parts of Philly, Los Angeles, Baltimore, or even where I was at back in Norfolk, Virginia Beach. They're not really worried about that. All they care about is their lives, their situation, and trying to be cool and getting woke points from their friends. And sometimes, oftentimes, unfortunately, as I close, this bleeds into politics. And then you have bad policy that is born out of that, and you see the results. Crime going through the roof, 50% increase, 30%, 40%, 533% increase in homicides in Portland, Oregon. All right. All over the United States, crime is rising, all because people just don't want to face the reality that in a lot of these high crime areas, you need the police. Defunding them, disrespecting them, not having their back, prosecuting lightly will not do anything but make the problem worse. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what Wiley said, talking about, oh, I've never said that, but you actually got on TV and said you want to take $1 billion away from NYPD. So if you don't want to defund the police, why would you take $1 billion away? That does not make any sense. But whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. Do high crime areas need police, or are high crimes area high crime because of the excessive police force? If that's the case, I can't tell, because why are people that live in these high crime areas asking for more police if the police are the problem? It makes no sense. How are you going to say that the police presence is causing more crime? That is just silly. That is just ridiculous. Okay. Just from a common sense and logical perspective, if a criminal's out here engaging in crime, violence, or whatever, and he sees 100 police cars right in front of his neighborhood, maybe he might not want to do it. Just maybe he'll commit the crime and the violence when, spoiler alert, when the police aren't there, when someone that can be a witness is not there. How simple is this? It should be pretty easy to understand, but I think nowadays, common sense ain't too common. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.